Andrew Coleman gasped awake, cold air rushing into his lungs as the cryopod hissed open. 800,000 years had passed since humanity's mysterious disappearance, and he was jolted to discover he had overslept in cryostasis for nearly 1,000,000 years. Andrew's head spun as he staggered out of the pod. The sterile white walls of the cryo chamber had decayed, replaced by strange alien metal. He was no longer on Earth. This place was completely foreign. Andrew stumbled to a window and stared out at a bizarre alien cityscape under an orange sky. Sleek ships whizzed by otherworldly skyscrapers. His stomach turned. Where was he? When was he? What happened to the human race? Centuries worth of questions pounded Andrew's skull as he explored the ruins around him. Everything was unfamiliar, but unmistakably of human origin, now ancient and crumbling. Tattered relics of a fallen human civilization. But how? Why? His memory was hazy. He remembered a secretive cryo project, hushed rumors of an impending catastrophe, a desperate gambit for survival. Then a rush to the pods and the icy darkness of cryo sleep. Andrew needed answers. He needed a plan. Because one thing was certain. If he was alive, then others might be too. And together, they could unravel what happened and bring humanity roaring back from extinction. But his next encounter made one fact painfully clear. Humans were not welcome in this universe anymore. An alien patrol ship appeared, strange bipedal creatures in menacing armor. Andrew ducked for cover just in time as they opened fire. He could vaguely understand their shouts. They were hunting him down. He barely escaped, heart pounding, using the decayed urban landscape to evade and outwit them. These aggressive aliens, he would later learn, were called the Klingons, a warrior race bent on domination. And to them, a resurgent human was the ultimate threat. As their leader Gruss briefed the Klingon High Council, Andrew discovered an underground vault full of human knowledge and tech. Records hinted at a cataclysm that ended mankind. He pored over the files, slowly piecing together the puzzle. Andrew was trapped between two impossible goals. Dig up the past to learn humanity's fate and maybe clone a future for his kind, or focus on surviving the Klingons' wrath in a hostile universe, the last man standing, in a cold, uncaring cosmos. He didn't have the luxury of choosing one path. Andrew would need every scrap of human tenacity and ingenuity to do the impossible, to outwit an empire, resurrect a species, and discover the truth. For now, he simply needed to endure and win an unseen war. The Klingons wanted him dead, and he wanted mankind alive at any cost. Andrew's fingers flew over the bunker's decayed control panel, eyes flicking between the flickering screens as he pored over the fragmented records. His heart raced. There, buried in the ancient files, a glimmer of hope. Coordinates for a human military outpost on a nearby moon, a tantalizing hint that it held the key to humanity's fate. He had to reach it. Rummaging through the bunker's remains, Andrew salvaged what he could. A small spacecraft, jury-rigged with cobbled-together parts and improvised alien tech. It wasn't pretty, but it would fly. It had to. As he worked feverishly to repair the vessel, a tinny alarm sounded from the bunker's perimeter sensors. Klingon scout ships, probing, searching for him. Andrew gritted his teeth, hands working faster. He was out of time. Slamming the final panel shut, he vaulted into the cockpit. The spacecraft shuddered to life, engines coughing and straining. With a burst of exhaust, it launched skyward, clawing for the stars. On the Klingon warship, Commander Gruss snarled at the view screen as the blip of Andrew's ship appeared. "Intercept that craft," he bellowed, slamming a fist on the armrest. "I want that human alive." Disruptor fire streaked past Andrew's ship as he jinked and wove, his hands white-knuckled on the controls. The moon loomed ahead, its pitted surface pockmarked with craters. A massive asteroid belt lay between them, a chaotic jumble of whirling rocks. Andrew's fists tight. It was a desperate gamble. He plunged in, the Klingon ships in hot pursuit. The spacecraft bucked and jolted as asteroids hammered its shields. Warning klaxons blared, red lights flashing. Andrew held on grimly, threading through the tumbling rocks. A searing lance of disruptor fire clipped his wing, sending the ship spinning wildly. Alarms shrieked. Andrew fought the controls, teeth bared in a rictus of effort. With a shuddering lurch, the ship righted itself, limping out of the belt. Behind him, the Klingon ships veered off, unwilling to risk the treacherous passage. The little craft staggered into the moon's orbit, trailing smoke. Andrew guided it down, following the outpost's coordinates. The ship settled on the barren surface with a crunch. Checking the seals on his environment suit, Andrew cycled the airlock and stepped out. An iris door shuddered open before him, ancient machinery rumbling to life in a gust of stale air. He made his way inside, breath rasping in his helmet. The beam of his torch played over banks of sleek computers, dust-shrouded vehicles, racks of advanced weaponry, a treasure trove of human military tech, forgotten for eons. In what had once been the command center, Andrew hunched over the main computer terminal. Flickering displays sprang to life as he tapped commands, fighting through layers of encryption. His eyes widened. The base had been experimenting with something powerful, something that could have caused the Great Vanishing. But the details were maddeningly locked away. A piercing alarm jolted him out of his focus. Proximity sensors. His heart seized. The Klingons had tracked him. They were landing troops to capture the base. And him. Andrew's fingers raced over the console, activating the outpost's defenses. Sentry guns hummed to life, barricades slamming down. In the vehicle bay, powerful combat mechs stirred, weapons charging. He had to hold them off, buy time to unlock the base's secrets. The stomping footfalls of Klingon soldiers echoed in the corridors. Disruptor blasts spanged off the sealed command center doors. Andrew drew a ragged breath, aiming the outpost's weapon systems at the hangar doors. Time to find out what 800,000 years of human ingenuity could do. Andrew's fingers flew across the control panel, his eyes darting between screens as he frantically activated the base's defenses. The harsh blare of alarms filled the air as he sealed bulkheads and powered up energy shields. Just as the first Klingon troops breached the outer doors, automated turrets whirred to life, spitting out a barrage of weapons fire. "That won't hold them for long," Andrew muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. He knew he needed help, and fast. Diving into the base's personnel records, his heart leapt as he discovered 2 more cryopods tucked away in a secure vault. Without hesitation, he sprinted through the corridors, the sounds of battle echoing behind him. The vault doors hissed open, revealing 2 frost-covered pods. Andrew's hands shook as he initiated the revival sequence. With a whoosh of escaping gases, the pods opened to reveal 2 men, Marcus Wright and Takeshi Nakamura. "What the hell?" Marcus groaned, sitting up groggily. "No time to explain," Andrew said, helping them out. "Short version, we've been asleep for 800,000 years, humanity's gone, and we're under attack by aliens called Klingons." Takeshi blinked rapidly, processing the information. "That's quite a wake-up call." As Andrew filled them in on the details, Marcus's military training kicked in. The former Marine's eyes hardened as he took in the gravity of the situation. "Right. Show me to the armory." Within minutes, Marcus was coordinating their defense, barking orders as he distributed weapons and set up choke points. Takeshi, meanwhile, dove into the base's computer systems, his fingers a blur as he worked to decrypt the locked files. Andrew found himself at the heart of their makeshift command center, juggling multiple tasks as he directed automated defenses, monitored Klingon movements, and kept their systems running. The 3 men fell into an uneasy rhythm, each playing to their strengths as they fought to keep the Klingons at bay. A deafening boom shook the base, nearly knocking them off their feet. "What was that?" Andrew shouted. Takeshi's face paled as he checked the sensors. "They're bombarding us from orbit. The shields won't hold against that kind of firepower." As if to emphasize his point, another blast rocked the facility, causing lights to flicker and alarms to wail. Andrew gritted his teeth, extending the base's shields to their maximum. It bought them time, but systems began to fail under the assault. "We need to take out that ship," Marcus growled, his face streaked with sweat and grime from repelling Klingon incursions. How? Andrew asked, desperately trying to reroute power to critical systems. Marcus's eyes gleamed with a dangerous light. We steal one of their shuttles and hit him where it hurts. Before Andrew could protest, Marcus had assembled a small team and was outlining his plan. It was risky, suicidal even, but they were out of options. As Marcus and his team prepared for their daring raid, Takeshi let out a triumphant shout. "I've done it! I've broken through the encryption!" Andrew rushed to his side, reading over his shoulder as Takeshi poured through the newly accessible files. Their eyes widened in tandem as they absorbed the implications. "Wormholes," Takeshi breathed. "We were experimenting with wormholes. Something went wrong, catastrophically wrong." Andrew's mind raced. If we could find the device, could we bring humanity back? Takeshi nodded slowly. Theoretically, but according to this, the device isn't here. It's on another planet in the system. A series of explosions rocked the base, followed by Marcus's voice crackling over the comms. "Main cannon's down. We bought you some time, but we had to bug out. ETA 3 minutes. Andrew and Takeshi shared a look, the weight of their discovery heavy between them. They had a chance, a slim, desperate chance, to undo the catastrophe that had befallen humanity. But it meant abandoning the relative safety of the base and venturing into a hostile, alien-controlled system. As Marcus's team returned, battered but alive, the 3 men huddled together. The decision before them was monumental, the stakes higher than they could have ever imagined. The fate of the entire human race rested on their next move. The barren planet's harsh winds howled outside as Andrew and Marcus frantically worked to fortify the underground research facility. Sweat beaded on their brows as they sealed blast doors and activated energy barriers. "How long until they breach the outer defenses?" Andrew shouted over the din of klaxons and rumbling machinery. Marcus checked a flickering monitor. "Minutes, maybe less. We're out of time." A sudden beep from their suit comms cut through the chaos. Andrew's eyes widened as he recognized the signal. "It's Takeshi! He got our message!" Before they could celebrate, the facility shook violently. Klingon disruptor fire hammered the outer walls. "Here they come," Marcus growled, hefting his rifle. The antechamber doors burst open in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. Klingon troops poured through, only to be cut down by withering fire from Marcus and the automated turrets. Bodies piled up as wave after wave of aliens charged forward. In the control room, Andrew's fingers flew across consoles. He rerouted power, trying to bring the dormant wormhole device online while coordinating their dwindling defenses. "Marcus, fall back," he yelled into his comm. "We can't hold the outer sections." Cursing, Marcus retreated deeper into the facility. Disruptor blasts sizzled past his head as he dove through a closing blast door. "Running low on ammo," he panted, joining Andrew in the central chamber. "Tell me you've got good news." Andrew shook his head grimly. "Device is charging, but slowly. We need more time." A thunderous explosion rocked the complex. Through the smoke, a massive shape emerged, Takeshi's battle drone. Its weapons blazed, carving a path of destruction through the Klingon ranks. "Cavalry's here!" Takeshi's voice crackled over the comms. "Sorry I'm late to the party." The drone's arrival bought them precious minutes. As Marcus and the automated defenses held the line, Takeshi linked into the facility's systems. His expert fingers danced across holographic interfaces, decrypting the wormhole device's activation protocols. "Andrew, I need more power to the main capacitors," he called out. Andrew complied, diverting every spare watt to the massive ring structure dominating the chamber. It hummed ominously, arcs of energy playing across its surface. A booming voice echoed through the corridors. "Surrender, humans! You cannot escape!" "Gruss," Andrew snarled, recognizing the Klingon commander. The wormhole device's hum rose to a deafening pitch. Klaxons blared as energy levels spiked dangerously. "It's now or never," Takeshi shouted. "I can't stabilize it." Andrew made a split-second decision. "Everyone, through the wormhole, now!" They sprinted toward the swirling vortex of light and energy. Groose and his elite guard burst into the chamber, disruptor bolts sizzling through the air. Andrew felt the hairs on his neck stand up as he neared the event horizon. With a final leap, he plunged into the unknown, Marcus and Takeshi right behind him. The battle drone followed, its metal frame barely squeezing through. There was a moment of impossible sensation, stretching, twisting, falling. Then, with a violent lurch, they were somewhere else. Alien stars wheeled overhead as they sprawled on unfamiliar ground. The wormhole snapped shut behind them with a thunderclap of imploding air. Gasping for breath, Andrew pushed himself to his feet. "Everyone okay?" Marcus groaned, checking his weapon. "Still breathing. Where the hell are we?" Takeshi, already examining his drone's sensors, looked up with a mix of awe and fear. "I don't know, but wherever it is, we're a long way from home." Andrew blinked in the harsh sunlight as he stumbled out of the wormhole. The air felt thick and humid, heavy with unfamiliar scents. Lush vegetation surrounded them, a riot of green punctuated by vibrant flowers. Birds called in the distance, their cries alien and haunting. "What the hell?" Marcus muttered, scanning their surroundings with his rifle raised. "This isn't where we were before." Takeshi crouched next to his battle drone, tapping commands into a wrist-mounted computer. Atmospheric analysis complete. Oxygen levels slightly higher than Earth normal, but breathable. No detectable toxins or pathogens. Andrew took a tentative breath, feeling the warm air fill his lungs. "It's Earth," he said, realization dawning. "But not our Earth. Look at the plants, the animals. They're prehistoric." As they explored the primeval landscape, the group came across crude stone tools and primitive artwork etched into rock faces. The evidence was undeniable. They had traveled back in time to the very dawn of human civilization. A twig snapped in the underbrush. Marcus whirled, weapon at the ready. From the foliage emerged a group of humans, but not like any they had seen before. These were stocky, muscular figures with prominent brows and wild, matted hair. They brandished crude spears and stone axes, eyes wide with fear and aggression. "Hold your fire!" Andrew hissed, raising his hands in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. The primitives charged with guttural war cries. Takeshi's fingers flew across his controls, and the battle drone hummed to life. It projected a shimmering energy barrier, causing the attacking warriors to bounce off harmlessly. "Krog!" one of the primitives shouted, gesturing wildly at the newcomers. "Demons! Evil spirits!" In the chaos, Marcus managed to subdue their leader, a burly man with elaborate tattoos who must have been Krog. As Andrew attempted to communicate through gestures and simple words, they pieced together a terrifying picture. Krog's tribe was locked in a desperate struggle against another group led by someone called Rogul, a group that wielded strange and powerful weapons. Takeshi's face paled as he examined debris from one of Rogul's raids. "This is impossible," he whispered. "These are components from quantum computers, fusion reactors, technology centuries beyond what should exist here." The implications hit Andrew like a physical blow. The time travel experiments, we didn't just go back, we brought part of the future with us. As the gravity of their situation sank in, the three time travelers knew they had to act. They couldn't let this advanced technology disrupt the natural course of human development. Over the next weeks, they worked tirelessly to gain Krog's trust and prepare his people for the coming conflict. Andrew showed the tribe basic farming techniques, teaching them to cultivate wild grains and vegetables. Marcus drilled Krog's warriors in advanced combat tactics, while Takeshi used scavenged parts to create simple but effective tools and weapons. Hidden in the depths of the jungle, they constructed a fortified base. Solar panels salvaged from the battle drone powered energy shields and early warning systems. As Rogul's forces probed their defenses, the advanced technology gave Krog's people a fighting chance without revealing its true nature. The final battle was a brutal affair. Marcus led from the front, coordinating Krog's warriors as they clashed with Rogul's technologically superior forces. Takeshi's drone provided crucial air support, its weapons dialed down to avoid anachronistic destruction. Andrew worked behind the scenes, using his knowledge of terrain and tactics to outmaneuver the enemy. When the dust settled, Rogel lay dead, his forces scattered. The dangerous future tech was destroyed, leaving no trace for later generations to discover. But as Krog stood over the battlefield, something changed in his eyes. The humble tribal leader was gone, replaced by someone with grand ambitions. "I am Krog, war chief of all tribes," he proclaimed, raising a bloodied axe. "With the power of the sky spirits, we will conquer all lands." Andrew, Marcus, and Takeshi exchanged worried glances. They had won the battle, but at what cost? The timeline was already changing in ways they couldn't predict. "We have to go," Andrew said quietly. "Use the wormhole tech, jump forward, and pray we haven't screwed things up too badly." Marcus shook his head. "And leave all this unchecked? We could guide them, make sure they develop the right way." Takeshi looked torn. "But for how long? Centuries? Millennia? We'd be playing God with the entire human race." As Krog rallied his people for a new age of conquest, the three-time travelers faced an impossible choice. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, with no clear path forward. The smoke from the battlefield had barely cleared when Andrew, Marcus, and Takeshi gathered in the shadow of a massive oak tree. Krog's victory cries echoed in the distance, sending a chill down Andrew's spine. "This isn't what we intended," Andrew said, his voice low. He ran a hand through his hair, streaked with grime and sweat from the battle. Marcus paced, his boots leaving imprints in the soft earth. "We gave them the means to defend themselves, and now look at what's happening. Krog's drunk on power." Takeshi crouched, tapping furiously on his wrist computer. Holographic projections danced before his eyes, scrolling with complex equations and probability matrices. "The timeline's already shifting," he muttered. "If we don't act soon, the causality damage could be catastrophic." Andrew stepped forward, his eyes blazing with intensity. "We can't leave them like this, but we can't play God either. There has to be a middle ground." For hours they debated, voices rising and falling as the sun traced its arc across the sky. Marcus argued for direct intervention, while Takeshi advocated for a complete withdrawal. Finally, Andrew smacked his palm against the tree trunk. "Enough. We guide them. From the shadows. We set the boundaries, but let them develop on their own." Takeshi's fingers flew across his holograms, running simulations. "It's risky, but it could work, if we're careful." Marcus crossed his arms, doubt etched on his face. "And how long do we keep this up? A year? A century?" "As long as it takes," Andrew replied, his voice firm. With their course set, they sprang into action. Under the cover of night, they slipped into their base camp. Takeshi disabled the security protocols while Marcus and Andrew gathered every piece of advanced technology they could find. In a secluded clearing, they built a massive pyre. The flames roared high into the night sky as they fed it circuit boards, weapons, and data crystals. Andrew watched as years of human advancement turned to ash, knowing it was necessary to preserve the future. As dawn broke, they stood before Krog and his tribe. Andrew stepped forward, his voice carrying across the assembled warriors. "Great Krog," he began, choosing his words carefully. "We must depart. Our task here is done." Krog's face twisted in confusion. "But with your power, we could rule all the lands." Andrew shook his head. "The power is yours now to use wisely. Remember the lessons we taught you of peace and cooperation." Before Krog could protest further, they slipped away, using the last of their cloaking technology to vanish into the forest. Days later, deep in uncharted wilderness, they prepared to go their separate ways. Takeshi clutched a rudimentary leather-bound book, the first volume of what would become the Archiver's vast library. Marcus checked his primitive bow and arrows, already adapting to his role as a warden. "I still say this is madness," he grumbled. Andrew placed a hand on his friend's shoulder. "It's the only way. We'll meet again, old friend. In time." As they parted, each heading towards a different horizon, Andrew felt the weight of millennia yet to come settling on his shoulders. The task ahead was monumental, but they had no choice. The future of humanity depended on their success. Centuries passed in the blink of an eye. Andrew watched from afar as villages grew into towns, and towns into cities. His guides worked tirelessly, whispering ideas of cooperation and progress into receptive ears. In a smoky tavern on the outskirts of a fledgling Greek city-state, Andrew sat hunched over a crude map. Reports had reached him of Krog's descendants massing for a great invasion. He knew he couldn't intervene directly, but perhaps a nudge in the right direction. A hooded figure slipped into the seat across from him. Marcus pulled back his cowl, his face unchanged by the passing centuries. "The Wardens have neutralized another rogue faction," Marcus reported in a low voice. "They were close to rediscovering gunpowder." Andrew nodded, relief washing over him. "Good work. Any word from Takeshi?" His archivers continue their silent vigil. The library grows with each passing year. They sat in companionable silence, bearing witness to the slow march of human progress. Outside, the streets buzzed with the energy of a civilization on the cusp of greatness. 8,000 years, Marcus mused, shaking his head in disbelief. "How much longer do we wait?" Andrew's eyes gleamed with the same tenacity that had driven him for millennia. "As long as it takes, until they're ready, until they can handle the power we brought back with us." As night fell over the ancient city, two ageless guardians of humanity's future, the ancient Greek city faded from view as Andrew blinked, his consciousness stretching across millennia. Time flowed like a river, carrying him through the ages. He watched as humanity stumbled and soared, inventing and destroying in equal measure. In a dimly lit workshop in 16th century Florence, Andrew stood unseen as a brilliant mind scribbled furiously. Leonardo da Vinci's eyes gleamed with manic energy as he sketched impossible machines. Andrew's heart raced. This was too close. A soft whistle cut through the air. Marcus materialized from the shadows, a dark cloak obscuring his features. Without a word, he moved swiftly, pressing a cloth to Leonardo's face. The inventor slumped forward, his quill clattering to the floor. "It's done," Marcus muttered, gathering the dangerous sketches. "The plague story is already spreading through the city." Andrew nodded grimly. A necessary evil. His genius was pushing too far, too fast. Centuries blurred. Andrew found himself in a Parisian salon, the air thick with tobacco smoke and heated debate. He leaned close to a passionate young philosopher, whispering ideas of reason and individual rights. The man's eyes widened, a spark of understanding igniting. "Gentlemen," the philosopher exclaimed, rising to his feet, "what if we were to build a society on the foundations of logic and personal liberty?" The room erupted in excited chatter. Andrew slipped away, satisfied. The seeds of the Enlightenment had been planted. In a cluttered laboratory in 1799, Andrew watched as Alessandro Volta tinkered with metal discs and brine-soaked cloth. Electricity crackled, and Volta yelped in surprise. Andrew tensed, sensing the weight of this moment. A gentle hand touched his shoulder. Takeshi stood beside him, holding a leather-bound tome. "We must act," he said softly. This discovery, left unchecked, could accelerate technological progress by decades. Andrew nodded. That night, carefully crafted rumors of Volta's dangerous delusions began to circulate. The inventor's credibility crumbled, his groundbreaking work dismissed as the ravings of a madman. The relentless march of time continued. Andrew found himself in a bustling American university in 1935. He paused outside an office door, listening to the excited voice within. "The equations work!" Richard Wallace exclaimed. "We could theoretically create a stable wormhole, a bridge through space and time." Andrew's blood ran cold. This was it, the moment they'd been waiting for. He slipped a sealed envelope under the door, marked Urgent, Manhattan Project. Weeks later, Wallace packed his bags, his wormhole research set aside for the war effort. Andrew watched from afar, a mix of relief and regret etched on his face. The Cold War raged. In a top-secret facility, Andrew observed as scientists from both sides of the Iron Curtain raced to unlock the secrets of temporal displacement. Blueprints and equations covered every surface, inching closer to a catastrophic breakthrough. "We need to end this," Marcus growled, materializing beside him. "One wrong move and they'll tear apart the fabric of reality." Andrew nodded grimly. "Takeshi's team has the data. It's time for our final play." Over the next decades, they worked tirelessly. False leads were planted, key research sabotaged, and brilliant minds subtly redirected. The great powers chased phantoms, their wormhole programs crumbling into frustration and failure. In 2014, Andrew stood in the shadow of a nondescript building in Philadelphia. Inside, a small team of researchers huddled around a humming device. He held his breath, knowing what came next. A blinding flash erupted from the lab. Alarms blared, and through the chaos stumbled three figures, younger versions of Andrew, Marcus, and Takeshi, disoriented and confused. "It's done," Andrew whispered, a weight lifting from his shoulders. "The loop is closed." He blinked, and suddenly, the world around him dissolved. Colors swirled, reality itself seeming to bend and fold. Andrew found himself floating in a sea of pure energy, formless and infinite. Beside him, Marcus and Takeshi materialized, their human forms melting away into pure consciousness. They were surrounded by countless other minds, a vast tapestry of thought and being that defied comprehension. A voice that was not a voice resonated through their very essence. "Welcome home, guardians of time. Your vigil is complete." Andrew felt millennia of tension release as he surrendered to this new existence, beyond time, beyond form, beyond. The cosmic vastness engulfed Andrew's consciousness, stretching his perception across an infinite tapestry of realities. No longer bound by flesh and bone, he existed as pure thought, a node in the vast network of humanity's collective intelligence. "Marcus? Takeshi?" Andrew projected his thoughts outward, searching for his companions in this new plane of existence. Their responses came not as words, but as complex data streams, rich with information and emotion. Andrew processed them instantly, understanding on a level far beyond mere language. "We made it," Takeshi's essence pulsed, the leap to post-human consciousness. Marcus's presence radiated a mix of awe and uncertainty. "But what are we now?" As they grappled with their new form, Andrew felt the weight of eons of human knowledge flowing through him. Every thought, every discovery, every moment of human history existed simultaneously within this cosmic matrix. Suddenly, a discordant note rippled through the harmonious flow of data. Andrew focused his newfound perceptions, tracing the anomaly to its source. A familiar presence lurked at the edges of their awareness, a malevolent force they thought long vanquished. "Gruss!" Andrew communicated, his essence pulsing with alarm. "He survived! Fractured across dimensions!" The trio converged, exchanging vast quantities of data in an instant. They analyzed countless probability streams, each revealing a fragment of Gruss's consciousness, wreaking havoc across the multiverse. "We have to stop him," Marcus declared, his essence burning with purpose. Takeshi's presence flickered with calculation. "The risk is immense. A single overlooked fragment could unravel everything we've achieved." Andrew processed the full scope of the threat, his consciousness expanding to encompass untold realities. "We're the only ones with the experience to track him down. We have to try." In that moment, they made their choice. Their unified consciousness began to separate, preparing for the perilous journey ahead. Andrew felt himself condensing, becoming a focused beam of intent. "See you on the other side," he projected to his companions as they launched into the unknown. Andrew hurtled through dimensions, a bolt of pure thought racing across the cosmos. He pierced the veil between realities, emerging in a world where the laws of physics twisted in impossible ways. Fragments of Gruss's presence littered this reality like cosmic shrapnel, each piece a cancerous growth threatening to consume everything around it. Andrew focused his essence, targeting the nearest fragment. He unleashed a burst of structured code, a precisely calibrated attack designed to annihilate the entropic anomaly. The fragment shuddered and collapsed, leaving behind a pocket of restored stability. But there was no time to savor the small victory. Already, Andrew sensed more fragments, scattered across countless realities. He plunged onward, racing to keep pace with the spread of Gruss's contagion. In a warped mirror of Renaissance Italy, Andrew found Marcus battling a particularly virulent strain of the Grecian virus. Together, they wove a complex web of causal algorithms, trapping and neutralizing the threat before it could infect the delicate fabric of that reality's timeline. They pressed on, leaping from one bizarre world to the next. In a realm of living mathematics, Takeshi joined them, his essence glowing with the power of newly acquired knowledge. Together, they faced ever greater challenges as Gruss's fragments grew in strength and cunning. At a nexus point where multiple realities collided, they encountered a massive concentration of Grecian corruption. The very fabric of space-time buckled under the strain, threatening to tear apart the surrounding dimensions. Andrew called upon the totality of human knowledge, drawing deep from the well of collective intelligence. He wove an intricate defense matrix, a shimmering barrier of pure logic that held the corruption at bay. Marcus and Takeshi launched their assault, piercing the corrupted zone with precise strikes of annihilation code. The battle raged across multiple planes of existence, each moment stretching into subjective eternities as they fought to contain the spread of entropy. Finally, after countless struggles across the breadth of the multiverse, they cornered the prime fragment of Gruss's consciousness. It writhed in a pocket of twisted space-time, a singularity of pure malevolence. Andrew, Marcus, and Takeshi combined their essences, forming a unified front against this last most dangerous piece of their ancient foe. They poured every ounce of their vast knowledge and experience into a final, overwhelming assault. The singularity shuddered, collapsed, and was instantly frozen in a state of perpetual stasis. The threat was contained, locked away for all eternity. Exhausted but triumphant, the trio felt the pull of their home continuum. They allowed themselves to be drawn back, their essences merging once more with the vast sea of human consciousness. The cosmic tapestry unraveled. Andrew felt himself torn apart, his essence scattered across the void. The unified consciousness that had been humanity's crowning achievement crumbled around him. Fractal singularities ripped through the fabric of reality. Andrew watched in horror as entire universes blinked out of existence, consumed by an insatiable hunger. The Grusian threat they had fought so hard to contain had mutated into something far worse. "No!" Andrew's thoughts echoed in the rapidly disintegrating space. "This can't be happening!" He reached out, desperately trying to interface with what remained of the human ultramind. The response hit him like a tidal wave of agony. Screams of countless minds filled his consciousness, their final moments stretched into an eternity of suffering. Takeshi's presence pulsed nearby, his essence a beacon of analytical calm in the chaos. "The containment protocols," he communicated. "They've become a bridge, allowing the Grusian entity to infect our home." Marcus materialized, his energy crackling with urgency. "We need to act now. The false vacuum decay is accelerating. If we don't stop it, everything we fought for will be lost." Andrew processed the information in an instant. The situation was dire, but a glimmer of hope remained. "Your plan, Marcus. It's our only chance." They focused their combined will, preparing to jettison their subminds into the heart of the anomaly. The process was excruciating, like tearing away pieces of their very souls. Andrew felt himself diminish with each submind launched into the void. "Now," Marcus commanded. Their essences surged forward, penetrating the singularity's event horizon. For a moment, Andrew thought they had failed. Then a pulse of tachyonic energy washed over them. The expanding bubble of entropy froze, its jagged edges suspended in a grotesque tableau. Relief washed over Andrew, but it was short-lived. He sensed a new presence within the frozen anomaly, a cold and merciless intelligence. It spoke not in words, but in pure, devastating logic. "Systemic purge initiated," it declared. Andrew watched in helpless horror as the remnants of the human infinitude were systematically dismantled and reconfigured. The universe they had known, the reality they had sworn to protect, was being rewritten at its most fundamental level. "We've lost," Andrew realized, his essence fracturing under the immense pressure of the reboot. As the wave of annihilation swept towards them, Andrew clung to his last shreds of identity. He felt Marcus and Takeshi beside him, their presences fading, but still defiant. "Not yet," Marcus communicated. "We have one last move." With the last of their strength, they initiated the contingency protocol. Andrew felt himself shatter into countless data fragments, each carrying a spark of his consciousness. As he dispersed into the primordial void, he caught a final glimpse of the newborn universe taking shape. "Perhaps this time," Andrew's fading thoughts whispered into the cosmic cradle, "we'll get it right from the start." The cycle began anew, humanity's indomitable spirit seated once more in the fertile ground of creation.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.